Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Of course, we have loads to discuss. It's been a very, very busy few days in Irish Greyhound racing. And of course, we have seen two classic winners crowned in the last number of days. Let's start off with the willwego.com Irish Saint Ledger. As always, I'm joined by the Exile Dub Tommy Lyons and the Cheshire Cat, Sarah Kinsella. A great weekend of racing. Sarah, we'll start with you. It all started on Thursday and it finished on, well, let's say Saturday night in some style, but a great few days.
It has been a great few days for the industry. We started on a high and we certainly finished on a high, that's for sure. Great result in Dundalk, great crowd. They always put on a good show there with the horse racing beforehand, but Broadstrand Sid was just magic. And then we had the Ledger final, and we obviously had the Juvenile in Shelbourne. We had the Rose of Tralee on Friday or Saturday morning. It's just a busy few days, but great to see so many people going racing, so many great results, history being made with Clonbrien Treaty winning back to back and the fastest ever ledger time, I think it was. Yeah, it's just a magical few days. We've so much to talk about today.
Yeah, Tommy, it seems like we've been speaking about Clonbrien Treaty for a long, long time. But on Saturday night, he was crowned the dual Ledger winner, only the third dog in history to do it. A greyhound who has now four classics to his name. Like that's a remarkable achievement.
It's remarkable. It's like I was thinking about it at the time when watching the race on Saturday night, and I was thinking, it's a remarkable training performance. But it's also, well, also it says a lot about the constitution of the dog. But it also, I was thinking after, do you know what? We're kind of lucky at the moment. We probably have 8 or 10 trainers who could produce a training performance like that. We have that type of top trainer in the country at the moment. Graham is right at the top of the tree. We know that starts up, but like the best part about the performance, I suppose, was that like he did what he does in a lot of competitions. He looks weak enough early and is barely getting home, and then he strengthens up through a competition. And I think if he's the type of dog that if you had him peaking early in the competition, he wouldn't get through it. He'd get knocked out mid competition. So it takes a special type of performance to kind of get a dog like that through competition after competition and win them and win four classics, as you say. It's remarkable, absolutely remarkable.
I'll be honest, it didn't go exactly as I sort of thought it would go. I thought Clonbrien Treaty would probably be six clear into the back straight. As it was,
Mm.
he wasn't as far in front as he normally would be. Miami came away racing, Barefoot and Fire went up well. And for a few strides on the backstraight, I said, I think they're too close. And I think the point of the race where I thought he was going to win it was Miami King sort of stayed in his slipstream off the last bend. And you think to yourself, he's not stopping, and then the time comes up 29:28. Sarah's already alluded to how fast a Ledger final time it was. And you don't get picked up in those sort of times, Tommy.
No, look, the point I knew the race was over was between the third and fourth bends. That's where Miami King or whoever was chasing Barefoot on Fire. That's where they should have made a length around the third and fourth bends. When it was roughly three and a quarter lengths, that type of thing, and going into the third bend, and it was that coming out of the fourth bend, and that was it. You could see around the crown of the bend, you could say he's still holding this. This is over. Now they closed it to a length and a half, but like then the clock came up 29:28, and you're kind of going, well, now I understand why they didn't catch him. But like he was last out of traps. He was, or at worst, at best, he was joined fifth rather than last maybe. But he was slow to rise. Like sometimes it's plainly obvious what's going to happen, and he had five modest breakers really, or early pacers, not breakers, but modest early pacers in a final against him, which in itself is probably unique. And the opportunity was there that he could afford to miss it like he did because his early pace is going to carry him around. I was like exactly like you, I genuinely expected 6 lengths at some stage, and it never got above 3.5. So
Yeah.
he needed to be at his very best. He needed to be able to do 29, 28. I mean, if you take a length and a half, that's 10 spots, 29, 38, and he's only sharing the ledger. He needed to be at that peak.
Mm.
Yeah, Sarah, you were on track. Do you watch it in the infield or were you on the stands? And what was the sense from the crowd after the trap rise? He only takes it up really 25 yards into the corner, and in that 25 yards, he managed to get a full length of him. It was pretty remarkable. But what was the sense you got from the crowd?
Yeah, I was in the middle of the track. I was greeting the winner at the pickup with the winning sheet. The what did I get from the crowd? Well, it's hard to. I was more so looking at how far. It's hard to see, as you know, when you're in the middle of the track. It's easier for you guys, but he looked like to me he had opened up a bigger lead than he had when I looked at the replay. I was the same as you guys. I thought he was just going to open up such a big lead and they were all going to come at him and it was going to be a blanket finish on the line. He didn't open up as much of a lead as we thought he would, but he was at his best. And Miami King was at his best and it still wasn't enough. We've talked about Clonbrien Treaty every week and we said that he was getting stronger week after week. He's a real competition dog. He's proved that now with all the classics he's won. But listening to the crowd, I knew he had it won. Going into the third bend, he looked like he wasn't tiring at all. And then the noise started to pick up and you knew it was the Clonbrien guys because they was getting louder and louder. They sent me a video straight after the race to put up on social media and it was absolutely class. Like they waited until he was near the finishing line and it was just eruptions. A magical feeling. They're just in awe of the dog and they had said to me last week, like, he owes us nothing. You know, he's going to, they're not even allowing themselves think of winning back-to-back ledgers. And then it happens and he done it in such ease and such style, going down in history, 29-28. Like Miami King ran the race of his life, but Clonbrien Treaty just ran better. And it was just a magical evening.
Early speed wins the races, Tommy. That's what we're saying. A length and a half at the finish, but Miami King did run a hell of a race. Connections knew that they had to get him out racing. I actually met one of the owners at Shelbourne Park. He was there to watch it rather than getting down to Limerick. There's a big gang of them. It's down to Tony Howard and Dave Lawrence, but there's plenty more of them involved. You know a few of them yourself, but Gary Dempsey did all he could with this dog. He got him to turn a clear second. And as I said, for a few strides down the back straight, I thought there's a chance this dog is going to pick him up. And, you know, it just wasn't meant to be. But that's all you want to be doing is getting your dog to run his best race in the big night.
Well, like he had done, as Joe was pointing out to us for a couple of weeks he was on, he was saying, you know, pointing out and highlighting the trials, the 2950, 2930 trials. He hadn't come close to those sort of, you know, kind of figures really in the races. But when he needed, he produced his best performance, 29:38. It's a huge run. I thought the interesting thing with him was that he attracted a little bit of support just before the off. He was the only dog outside of the favourite who actually attracted support just before the off. And I was thinking, I would have had him near the outside of the field. I just didn't know how he was going to get a run. Okay, you thought he might be able to clear Cool Vaniato. Was he going to clear JT Craze? I wasn't certain. But I think people were taking a chance that Gary Dempsey had done a really good job with him again, a bit like Graham Holland with the winner. He'd done a job to peak him, and he obviously, there must be something from the kennel saying this dog is in superb form and take a chance that he could lead them. And then you're thinking, if he could lead the two inside, maybe he might have a chance, because I thought going down to third bend, he's, you know what, he's close enough now. He's close enough now to have a real say in this. It just didn't happen. But he still ran 29:38. I think Connections can be proud of that performance.
Yeah, I think what's notable is the fact that if you look at his sections through the competition, 304, 297, 297, 307, and then finally he does a 281. Like Sarah, he can do no more. Like their dog ran an absolute blinder in second spot. It just wasn't meant to be. You run into a four-time classic winner. Like that just happens.
It does, yeah. It's just unfortunate for him to come across a dog like that. But it was a remarkable achievement to get that far. I remember I was down there for the first two opening rounds, and the pace that dog was showing, the ground he was making up, you're saying to yourself, he's going to go a long way in this competition if he continues running like that. There was a few finalists that I kind of picked out at the start that would be there, but I never thought would win, if you know what I mean, because like you said at the start there, Clonbrien Treaty had the better early. He was in against 5 okay early pacers, but nothing to match him. So we could nearly put our house on it that he was going to lead. Yeah, he didn't absolutely blast from traps, but once his paws hit the sand, he always was going to lead, without a shadow of a doubt. That was always going to be the case. But I didn't think it would be Miami King that was going to get as close to him. I did think Paul Hennessy's two were going to get an awful lot, like Barefoot Fire and an absolute cracker. And a lot of people I was talking to beforehand fancied him. They really, really fancied him because they thought he was going to ping out and match Clonbrien into the bend, because he was the only one that could do it compared to your Ventry Faiths and your Coulavaniatos. But yeah, what a race, lads. Like it was deadly to be there and see something like that, and be part of history being made, because God knows how long was it, 50 or 52 years since that was done. It could be another 50 years until it's done again. So great to be there.
Yeah, there's no question about it, and there's sort of one or two people sort of sparked up a debate on online, and that he is a he's very much at his best around Limerick, Tommy, but he has won a classic in Shelbourne Park, and I would suggest, we have an added bonus later on. We will be talking to Jim Murphy. Sarah, did they allude to where they were going? I assume they're going to give him another crack at a derby.
Actually, ask when I was interviewing James, because I was just trying to focus on his reaction and how he felt. And he was talking about pups that he has coming along. And I actually didn't ask him what the plan was with the dog. I don't know. Even at the pickup when I went over to Rachel, the first thing she said to me was, he really loves it around this track. Was the first thing she said. And I was like, yeah, he really does. But I didn't know. I'd be honest with you, I didn't ask them. It never came into my head.
Well, we'll ask. I assume that's what will happen. I happened to be in the company of Jim and Kay's nephew yesterday. Just socially, we're very friendly in Dublin here. Purely coincidentally, and he said to me, "Will they retire the dog?" You know what I said? Well, you ask him. I'm not going to ask him. I said I couldn't imagine they will. He's running at the peak of his powers at present. You have a derby and you have a winter racing festival. Tommy, is that the sort of route you'd be taking?
And I tell you what, it's August 21, not August 20. So I could be looking at a third ledger. Never mind what he does in between, because he's it's not that he's that old. No, you'd have to mind him, because I wonder how long that sharpness can last in any greyhound. That explosive early pace that he has. It's brilliant to watch. You know, he's an exceptionally good dog regardless of where he is. But you mightn't get away with missing the kick the way he does. You know, he tends to come out of traps when you're in Shelbourne Park, when there's five early pacers in the race, and you might just, like, he's shown he can win races and do fast times in Shelbourne Park. It's just that when you make a mistake there, it's more likely to be punished rather than anywhere else. It's not that he can't do the same clocks, that he can't do Derby class time or Derby time. He can do all the things you need to win a Derby, apart from maybe do it 6 weeks in a row in Shelbourne Park and not get punished. And that's where I think the key is. It's like Graham knows that he's somewhat taking a chance with the way he trains him in terms of those early rounds. He's taking a chance a little bit. And then the dog is delivering for him when he pushed the buttons towards the end of the competition. The dog is delivering for him. It's that bit of hanging around until the end of the latter stages of a derby or whatever. I think he's perfectly brilliant in Shelbourne Park as he is in Limerick. It's just you do get punished. That's just the nature of it, I think.
His trapping does need to be better at Shelbourne Park, and we've seen that his
Yeah.
best displays around Shelbourne have been when he has pinged. He hasn't been able to recover from, let's say, the start he made on Saturday night at Limerick. Yeah, I think yeah, I agree with you. I think he runs Shelbourne Park perfectly fine, but just there's less room for error. You know, when it comes down to it, this ledger from the outset probably didn't look as deep as some in the past. Now it turned into a cracking ledger, but the profile of the dogs remaining certainly suited Clonbrien Treaty when it got down to the end. You know, the likes of Nocky and Dazzler going out, and he's in the Hazel Hill dog who was showing good early speed in the quarterfinals and semi-finals. The fact that he went out was a huge bonus to Clonbrien Treaty, because if, let's say, there had been a Nocky and Dazzler or a Hazel Hill, he may well not have struck the front around the opening bend. He might have been challenging down the back straight, but then all of a sudden you're more vulnerable to the dog coming in behind because you've to work harder to get to the front. So plenty went right for him, but at the same time, like, look at his record. It's just remarkable. Yes, he runs Limerick. He runs Limerick fantastically well. I agree with you, Tommy. There's no reason why he can't do that at Shelbourne Park. But again, there's just that little less room for error in Shelbourne Park.
Yeah, like I think that's the key to it, Ian. But we have to remember, like, and it sounds like we're not giving him enough credit for what he achieved in the ledger, I definitely don't mean to do that. But because he was there the night he was in the heat, he was the one who kind of effectively knocked Nocky and Dazzler out of the competition effectively by his.
You have to get through the rounds, and he did, and he showed great guts to do so.
And there are going to be challenges along the way, even if your trainer is kind of trying to do a high wire balancing act to try and get you to peak, to run really well every Saturday night, but peak at the right time. Like it's a real balancing act. So he was there to knock out Nocky and Dazzler. Effectively, he did. We kind of thought that probably, even though we were hoping otherwise, probably both of them couldn't qualify from that heat. And that's just the way it happened. And he had the class and the experience. And I think that experience was key to get through that. So look at it, the makeup of the final was absolutely perfect for the only early pacer in the race. But he had to earn his position there. It was a unique final with 5 kind of modest early pacers and a lightning early pacer. It was a unique final, but he had to earn his place there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
he
no,
didn't.
absolutely.
It's not just that it felt like that the whole way through. It didn't.
Absolutely. I'm going to do a little bit of after timing. I was speaking to Shelbourne. I was speaking to Teddy Hegarty at Shelbourne Park, and the topic keeps coming up. Teddy be on the phone to Liam Cashman, and they go through their prices. And he said to me, "What price did you make Clonbrien Treaty?" I said, "I cannot believe he's 6 to 4. I thought he was a shade of odds on." He said, "I'm the same." He says, "Liam Cashman's the same." On the evening of the final at Shelbourne Park before racing, he turned to me. He says, "I got 7 to 4 today." I said, "I cannot believe you got 7 to 4. I genuinely make him 4 to 5, 10 to 11 chance." That just seems that just seems a huge, huge price, but a dog who at the time we thought was guaranteed to hold a clear advantage in the back straight. Sarah, like in hindsight, the 5 to 4 was certainly that he returned is much more accurate than probably the 7 to 4 that one or two firms offered on Saturday morning. You know, we all should have been plowing in at 7 to 4.
Yeah, we should have. As you say, hindsight's a great thing. Like, I suppose you're looking at it from a point of view as, oh my God, this is back-to-back ledgers. This is a big ask. That's probably why he was the price that he was. And because of the amount of pace that was in the race, you got Coulivan Otto in there who, won the race of champions. You've got JT Craze in there who was running out of his skin for Paul Hennessy, Miami King who was eating up the ground. So there was a lot of things that could have happened. So it was a beautiful price. I was the same as you. When I seen the 6 to 4, I thought, my God, like, great for punters who like to back favourites because that was a stunning price.
Yeah.
But I can see why he wasn't shorter because there
I
was a lot of ifs and
I
buts.
was going to use the old line that well, he doesn't know it's a ledger final. But do you know what? Looking at him on Saturday night, he may well have done.
You may well have done, yeah. To get him back to that peakness and to get him into that top form, it's not an easy thing, lads. Like, to come in there week after week and perform the way he did and keep him sound and keep him in great form. It's not an easy thing. We all know that. I mean, we're looking at classics our whole lives, and we're looking at dogs and we're talking about them week in, week out. But you do run out of superlatives when you come to this dog, and I don't think he does actually get enough credit. It's a remarkable achievement. It really, really is.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you there. Just a reminder of the undercard. There was some fantastic performances from start to finish. The other Kobe obviously winning in 28-18. Like, it's great to see him still performing at a very high level. I just want to mention an old favourite of mine, Battle Cry through the Novice 750 winner, Lilac Tree. I was always a big fan of her, 41.67. The other Kobe, 28-18, holding off the rampant Tribal Sid, a dog who's been absolutely flying of late. Annie on Fire won well. Good night for, well, Merch trained Annie on Fire. Tribal Sid ran very well for him. Other runs on the card, obviously, yeah, Clonbrien Treaty we've mentioned. Our Cracker set a new track record, Sarah, for the 600. This fellow, I think they've discovered what this fellow wants. He wants to be left alone into the corner, and the longer run to the bend really suits. Once he gets on the bunny, he's strong. Extra gain, a dog we've been keeping a close eye on the last few weeks, finishing like a train. Couldn't get to him. He's beaten 2 lengths. He's doing 32.18, a hell of a run in second spot. But Our Cracker was very impressive.
Oh, he was superb. And I looked, he must have been 8 lengths clear or something down the back straight. He was gone. And I had kind of forgot that it was a 600. And then there was a big schmozzle, and everyone was like, Sarah, go to the clock. And I'm like, what? The track record? No, so it was just, it was a bit of, because the ledger had just been on previously. So it was a bit of everyone was running around the shop. And then we brought Emma out, and Emma was telling us that this dog is only back to himself now. Like, obviously they brought him over to the English Greyhound Derby and they had a small setback with him. So he's now coming back to himself. We've seen him in the last few weeks. I think he had 3 or 4 wins in a row. He's wet. Like, this is the dog that we were waiting to see all along. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. Geez, I don't know if he's going to go for the Laurels because that's only 525, isn't it? So maybe we'll see him back for the Derby. I don't know what the
I
plan is, but
I would say the Yvonne Barry 600 at Shelbourne Park is probably the
oh yeah,
target
that's
given
coming up.
given his
Yeah.
given his work here. He's just after winning a tri-stake in Shelbourne Park. Final over 600 yards, got loose in the bunny, did a decent clock, but this was again a different level. Tommy, Our Cracker, a dog we've always had on our radar, was backed for pound, shillings, and pence in the opening round of the English Derby. I think he was in the heat that the Laddie Da won. I think he was going to the front on the corner, got badly balked, and the Laddie Da, from being 5 behind, was left in front. They obviously thought plenty of him back then. It's taken a while to get him back to hand, but a dog in form, he's worth keeping an eye on in the coming weeks.
Did he start off in the Juvenile Classic, if I remember? I thought he
Yeah, I
did.
believe he did. Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah.
I just looking at it, just because when the track records pop up around the country, you kind of have a quick glance, and like the 600 yard isn't a race, isn't a competition or run. Sorry, races run very often in Limerick. 22 races this year, 49 last year, 7 in 2022, 15 in 2021, 8 in 2020. It's not like they run 600 yard race that often. Now that wouldn't take away from the performance, because actually, to give it context of how good it was, sometimes you can just kind of look at that and go, "Ah, well, they don't run very often. The track record isn't important." But he beat a dog that was probably knocked out a neck out of the derby or out of the Leisure final. Should have been in the Leisure final if he had any little bit of luck from
Yeah.
running Extra Gain. Extra Gain still looks a bit green from the last bend, coming off the last bend. I thought he gave away a couple of lengths. Not that he'd have beaten the winner anyway. Our Cracker ran an absolutely remarkable race, but two seriously fast dogs.
I just want to mention there the last two displays on the card at Limerick. Hot Wood, excuse me, winning in 29:48 for the 550-yard trip, a fine run. And the last race of the card was won by 10 years Shuttering. This is a dog I know a little bit about because I was keeping an eye on the action at Enniscorthy. Won an unracing at Enniscorthy in 28:83. Obviously, very bright young prospect for Declan Beery and Orla McCarthy. We will move on, however, because lots to get through. First of all, we're going to mention before we get to Dundalk, because it was won by a son of Droopy Sydney. Sarah, you got the scoop there with Aoife Dunphy. She confirmed on Saturday at Tralee that Droopy Sydney sadly passed away.
Yeah, she's down in Tralee. They were sponsoring the big final on the card. And she had just come up to me and said, "Listen, Pearl Droopy Sydney has passed away," and she says, if you want, we can have a few words about it, and you can ask me about it, and you can share the news." And I was delighted that it was lovely that she asked me to do it, and I wanted to do it justice because obviously he's a dog that, I mean, I haven't read your piece on it yet. I'm looking forward to it, but where do you begin? So yeah, she was very, very upset about it. Naturally, he had passed away a few days and they were just trying to get their heads around it. So she told me anyway the news, and look, he's just shy of his 13th birthday, I think it was. And
Yeah, December 11th, 2011.
Yeah, as she said, that they were there when he came into the world and they were there when he left. And she put it beautifully herself. So yeah, very sad day for them. I mean, we all know what it's like to lose our beloved pets, but he was more than a pet. I think some of these greyhounds become part of your life and part of your household, and they can really take over. So yeah, we send our love to Aoife and all the connections at Droopy Sydney, but the legacy he leaves behind is pretty special, isn't it?
It sure is. Tommy, like Droopy City, this isn't the time to wallow in sadness. Like he's 13 years of age approaching, and they knew this day was coming. He'd been retired from stud duties last October, so like they knew that the end was near. But what he's achieved in a short spell of time, and that's what people sort of, that's what you have to realize. Like this dog, after his first race, got injured. Sat in his bench basically for 5 years, and one or two little litters. It was Johnny Linehan that sort of instigated. I'd like to bring a good bitch to him. Can we do something? He says that this dog could run. I only looked back at his debut the other day for the first time. It was actually still up on the website. I couldn't believe it, from 2013. He looked a hell of a dog on debut. Obviously, it didn't happen for him in a racing career, but that first litter, well, sorry, the second litter, the Broadstrand Zola litter, they turned into be stars, and all of a sudden, bang, 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 this name started appearing: Droopy Sydney, Droopy Sydney, Droopy Sydney, and then all of a sudden, in the last 4 years, let's say, it was just night after night. Anytime a fast pup would appear, you go, "Oh, there's a Droopy Sydney. Oh, there's a Droopy Sydney." And as I said on the little tweet that I put out about his debut, like you'd look at that debut and go, "God, I'd say he's a Droopy Sydney looking at him." That sort of way, like his pups run like he did. And even in his debut, it looked like he'd have gone on for another 100 yards. Like he was just power packed at the finish, 28:45 on debut around Greyhound Park. But what he's achieved as a sire, Tommy, like we've spoken about it numerous times, but will it ever be matched again?
Well, like there were great names. There were great names among sires when we were young, and names you remember forever. But like what he's done recently, like it's not just that he was winning lots of races and he was winning big races. He was dominating classics. He was having, like, look at the other night in the sprint. He had 5 of the 6 finalists.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even out of the way, outlandish and outlier. That is just
I think he
what he's
twice at
been.
four. I think he twice at four runners in the Derby
That's what
final.
he's been. That's what he's been doing. Funny enough, if you watch his debut, he raced. Broadstrand Sid races very much like him. Once an inside line, and the whole lot. The times he was out in five as well. He ran nearly the exact same line as the sire did, as Droopy Sydney did. He's he's been remarkable because we sometimes you don't like to talk about the sire too much because it feels like you're advertising for one stud over another and all this sort of stuff. But like he came up so much over the last few years, we kind of threw that out the window because he was just dominating. That's what he was doing. He was dominating competitions and classics and all that sort of stuff. So it's just like what you said about him. It's by pure fluke that he ever had any litter and that he became to be so successful. So it just goes to show you. I mean, you might put all the science in the world into it, but sometimes you just need a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's why, Sarah, you do see sort of men that try and give their own dog maybe one or two litters, see how they go, and you never know, and they might fly. And it's happened a few times, but never to this scale. You look at his. Look at him. Like I listed a few, but like you couldn't list them all. But his classic winners included Knocknabull Sid, Swords Rex, Crafty Kokoro, Gaston Picas, Rahamofo, One Time Only, Bobsleigh Dream, Crafty Shavu, Cleric Aldo, and High Trend, and of course, most recently Broadstrand Sid, who we're about to talk about. Like he's won an English Derby, Dearjet Sydney, Gay Time Nemo. Even this year in the UK, the likes of Barntic Bear is it should be Sydney. Others from the UK like Brookside Richie, Belmore Sally from Post to Pillar, Coolavani Shadow, Cochise, Slick Sakina, Coolavani Anti. Like you could go on and on and on and on. He's now throwing stud dogs. He'll end up being a sire of champion bitches. Now the problem is trying to find a cross because there is so much Droopy Sydney out there right now. But it will happen. But like just a dog who we're not going to be able to forget about anytime soon because his name is going to pop up considerably. Firstly, for the next year or two, anyway, there's still plenty of pups on the ground, a few straws there and whatnot. But even in 10 years' time, we'll be looking back. This his grandsire was Droopy Sydney. That's just going to keep happening.
Yeah, 100%. And like Tommy, you were saying, like you have to. It's a bit of luck as well because it's not an easy thing either. Like because you're taking a chance, you just don't know. It's like when Pastana was starting off, we're like dying to see his pups on the ground. And there you go. There's Clonbrien Treaty after winning
Four
four
classics.
classics. Like, do you know what I mean? So look, there will be a few dogs, sires that will definitely try to replace him, but it's all about the look. And we tried it here at home with Pearl Acadello, rest in peace. We started off with litters and we bred a litter and the best we got out of it was 2850 here in Shelbourne Park, which we all know is not even good enough anymore now with the standard of racing there. Lovely litter, but that was about the height of it. It's very hard to get into that market and it's all about the look. And they had it with him. As you said, like with Johnny Linehan, he was like, oh, here, we'll just chance, give him a good bitch, and the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. No, excuse me. Droopy Sydney, we couldn't say enough about him, but like we have gone on about him ad nauseum for a long, long time, as Tommy alluded to. A dog who we certainly haven't heard the last of, but may he rest in peace. And to the Dunphys, to Johnny Linehan, and of course the owners of Broadstrand Sid, who were also the owners of Droopy Sydney, which is a fairly remarkable achievement. The fact that his first classic winner after his passing was the aforementioned Broadstrand Sid. Let's get into Broadstrand Sid, Tommy. I think it's safe to say that you know. I sort of just said it yesterday at the end of the piece. I just threw it in. I actually threw in the retirement piece from last October rather than rehashing it all. I just said, this is what I wrote last October, taking out a couple of bits and pieces here. I think it's safe to say that Broadstrand Sid could potentially be his fastest ever son. Certainly in terms of from point A to point B, in terms of pure, unadulterated, sheer speed, I'm not sure we've ever seen faster. 2057, 2060, and 2067 around Dundalk. Three fastest runs ever seen at a track that has seen some of the very best sprinters over the last 20 years racing it. And once again, he may not have done things all too correctly on Thursday night, but he emerged a sensational winner from a dog who in second spot ran an incredible race in the lead Kursk, but he's just very unlucky to run into Broadstrand Sid, who is very, very, very special.
Yeah, actually, just on that point of Elite Kursk, it's he just goes to the point to say about taking a chance with your own sire, Elite Black.
Yeah. Yeah,
and to run
absolutely.
such a remarkable race. He's in Elite Black is in against 5 Droopy Sydneys, an Elite Black dog, and he finishes second and actually ran his heart out. We talked him up quite a bit over the last few weeks because he did catch a eye in nearly every round. So it's just there's something nicely fitting about an Elite Black.
I was talking to Miles and Pat Robin afterwards, and like they were saying, Elite Black, the sire, is Law Hill
Yeah.
Blake. He says, "Do you know what? He'd be a lovely cross for deer for Droopy Sydney pitches in the future." I think they're already thinking, "Geez, we could give this dog a little chance." And the Law Hill Blakes, that's why Droopy's flight line is getting so many, because he's a Law Hill Blake, and they will cross with the Droopy Sydneys. But let's get back to the race itself. The winner, Broadstrand Sid, again, just his brute pace is unbelievable.
Look, it's raw pace, and it's raw pace, raw ability, and the fact that you can do things not exactly right and still do 20:67. As I think you said it the other night, did you? There's the three fastest times ever over the trip and it's not like we haven't been having good dogs running Dundalk. This
Yeah.
is the top sprint in the country for years and years. And I would argue that this renewal was as good as any. As I said last week, if you had taken out Broadstrand Sid and put in some other dog like Dynamic Force or something like that, you still would have had a top class final, and nobody be saying, "Geez, that was substandard." They'd be saying, "Geez, that was a really good competition, really good final to what was a really good competition." Um, Broadstrand Sid just brought that extra little touch of class and a bit of excitement to it because I mean, for him to break the track record on his debut over 2 bends was remarkable. But then you kind of go, okay, maybe when he misses the kick, we might find out what kind of dog he was. And when he did miss the kick a couple of times, he still managed to come out on top. Or even the night he stumbled in the semi-final, quarter-final against Carricaldo, he's only beaten a head or a neck. I mean,
Quarterfinal, yeah.
he's railing remarkably tightly as well.
Yeah,
And
it was the first time it was the first time I saw him in the flesh. Sarah, you would have been there with me. We both saw him in the flesh. The speed he was going to run as tightly off that second bend to the rail
mm,
as he did just it seems almost impossible. Like you're so used to watching races, let's say in Shelbourne Park at the back straight, on that little viewing area in the back straight, and you see dogs swing so wide, even railers,
Mm.
that like you nearly have to look over the wall to see them. They're right underneath you. Broadstrand Sid, honestly, you couldn't get a slip of paper up the inside between him and the rail. It was phenomenal.
Taking the paint off, as we say. He literally was, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, and to be going at that speed and hug it so tightly, that's the ability that he has, and we don't see that too often. Like the clock is there at 20:67. It was, as you always say in your commentary in Shelbourne, it's the sprint now, blink and you'll miss it. You literally could have blinked and missed it. He was going that bloody fast. Like,
that's a terrible impression, by the way.
I
Terrible.
know, yeah, I'll never make a commentator, thank God. But no, that was a spectacular performance. It really was. And what a run from Elite Kursk. And I know, like we were chatting to them afterwards, we were all there, and Miles and like they were over the moon, but they were still disappointed because they got so close.
Yeah.
And the clocks that he was doing even during the competition was exceptional. And Carrigaldo getting there trying to defend his title. It was a brilliant final. I think it was one of the best sprints in terms of the quality of runners I've seen in quite some time, because you had a lot of middle pace dogs in there throughout the competition. Your Trinity Juniors, your Ballymacfins, your the other Kobe, Road Exile, because he won the what was it? Did he win the Kingdom Derby? Then won the Super Sprint in
Yeah,
Cork.
won the Kingdom
Reaches
Derby.
reaches the final. It was an exceptional lineup. Every dog deserved to be there. But hats off to Broadstrand Sid, and Johnny Linehan missed it. His daughter had a Debs, I believe. But they sent Kier on. They didn't want to break the tradition. We're all very superstitious, us Greyhound people. We don't like to change things up. If it's working, keep it that way. And it worked for Kieran. And he was doing a lot of driving, because I know he was working up the country as well during the week. So fair play to him. It was well worth the trip, and a great night for Johnny Linehan. He's a fabulous kennel at the moment, doesn't he?
He does have an unbelievable Ken at the moment, but very much the stable star is Broadstrand Sid. Tommy, Elite Kursk really did put it up to him into the opening corner. He leads into the bend where Broadstrand Sid sort of joins him. Off the last bend, you still think it's very much it's still very much there to be won, and you see Alert Kursk just running his natural line, and all of a sudden you see Broadstrand Sid, and he he lost absolutely not an inch in momentum, staying as tight as he did to the fence. And he really did power home. It looked like Elite Kursk was closing on him. I mean, even in the last few strides, I think Broadstrand Sid pulled away again to win by a length of a quarter. I thought it was 3 parts of length when I sort of first initially saw it. And then when you look back at the replay, you realize that Broadstrand Sid kicks again. Just just a remarkable performance.
It's a brilliant performance. A brilliant final. I'm just a little bit browned off for Carrick Aldo, considering he was. I'd love to have seen where he would have finished, because his most impressive part of his races this year have been his finishing kick,
Yeah.
in his races. And I said that I thought maybe he was just 95, 98% in the semi-final when he didn't drive out of the first bend like he had done in the quarterfinal. But he maybe, just maybe, and I watched that race quite a few times to see if I could figure it out. Maybe, just maybe, he got a slight bump or a clip at a very bad time. Something that looked kind of innocuous in the semi-final, but actually affected him quite badly. He was positioned, I felt, watching the race, he wasn't going backwards at the point on the bend the other night, and I felt that he was actually holding the position so well that he was ready to get his kick, to get the kick that he normally produces, and then he got clipped, and that was the end of his race. He actually ran on strongly up the straight again. I think Barry Call is backed him to win the Derby. He's told us a few times, and actually, do you know what? Looking at the dog there, he just looks so much stronger than before,
Yeah.
and I would be very interested. I think Connections will find it hard to bypass the Laurels and go to Derby. If you wanted a proper crack at the Derby, maybe that's what you should do for a dog like him. And maybe that's going to be a concern for trying to. We had the problem with filling the Juvenile Derby. I just wonder, will we have the same problem with the Laurels, considering the Derby is there and everybody seems to be looking forward.
That's the type of dog that you'll be just sort of on the fence with in terms of, would you go, will you not go? Because
Yeah, like,
there is only one Derby. It should be a cracking Laurels, don't get me wrong, but we definitely saw a few skipping the ledger. I think we'll definitely see
yeah,
a few skipping the Laurels. There is only one Derby, and that's what people want to win. I get the impression Bucko's Diamond won't be anywhere near Cork for the Laurels. I have a feeling he'll have 2 or 3 races in Shelbourne Park straight to the Derby. It could be a similar scenario with some of these dogs. Broadstrand Sid, I don't know if they'll go to Derby route. I sort of muted us off camera rather than on camera, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, if he'll get home."
he's
Elite Kursk is not going to Laurels at the moment. Anyway, it seems like he's not going to Laurels. They're just a little bit concerned about wide speed down at Curraheen. I'd say I think you get away with it. You have the early speed. I said, yeah, but he's eligible for an A2 competition. Any chance to put on a nice A2 in Shelbourne Park for him? I went. I said, just don't advertise the fact you're going to an A2. You might scare away a few people.
he's
Road
he's
Exile will rock up for whatever it has to be rocked up for.
Yeah, he won't be the only dog coming out of that competition going to A2 competitions. The Bartley, he's coming up as well. That'll be a very interesting lineup. I'd say that'll be as strong as the Laurels nearly.
Yeah, that could be very hot. Speaking of Bartley, he did get a mention a couple of times, Sarah, the
Yeah,
other evening. Obviously, he would have been there on the big night. Had what happened didn't happen. He's remembered fondly by everybody, and yeah, I think he may well have been looking down upon him.
He definitely was. Yeah, the gentleman that you interviewed, he mentioned him. And then when I put up the interview on the social media, that's why I says, like, Barkley, he's looking down on you all tonight. Like, and that's exactly, I'd say he's up there still celebrating. But yeah, you miss people like that when these big nights happen, because you know that it would have meant so much to them. And they're part of the team or part of the journey. But yeah, a fitting sort of ending, I suppose. When does that Bartley Heat competition start in Cork? The same time as the Laurels, is it?
Just Tom, go ahead.
The week after, I would imagine. The week after the start of it.
I was going to ask you,
want
actually, is the 525, you'd know better than me, is the 525 in Curraheen a tough 525? You know, the way like in Tralee it suits the early pay. It's not a hard 525. It suits your sprinters nearly, like Road Exile.
It's funny you ask that question.
Every year it's a speed test, but every year 1 or 2 strong run greyhounds get through because of the nature of it.
But I tell you, actually, you mentioned Liam Cashman earlier on talking to Ted Hakeley. Liam Cashman was a great character, very knowledgeable fella, really intelligent fella, and a great lad to have a chat with. I'm not that I've spoken to the man for years, actually, funnily enough. But I do remember talking to him about Curraheen Park years ago, and it stuck him in mind that he said the one thing about the Curraheen 525 is that there's no rest. In other words, there's no relief on the bends, if you know what I mean. They're racing bends. The dog
Yeah.
has to keep accelerating around the bend. There's no kind of, it's a tight bend. You can ease off slightly, you try to get rounded and tight or whatever. No, you run every bend. There's no real back straight. It's nearly, as soon as you straighten up, you're nearly getting back on the next bend again. So there's no relief. There's no kind of just slow down. You're driving at it all the time. So it does take a bit of a toll, actually.
Yeah, it does. Listen, as you said, there's no rest for it. It's pure out. It's like it is a speed test, but you certainly need to have the constitution. Even whatever about you can get 1 or 2 rounds. If you're not staying the 5.25 and you're running it, by the time he gets to the final out, you can be fairly out in your feet. No, that's what we have to look forward to. The first thing I said to Barney O'Hare on Thursday night was start writing the check, Barney. This dog is Laurel's bound, and there is a 10 grand bonus if he goes on to win it. He's tailor made for Tommy.
Well, I wouldn't back him for it because for two reasons. Well, one because he'll be very short price.
Very short.
They'll be very defensive in the way they price it, but also he's going to be draw dependent. He's going to be draw dependent, and he's going to be taking on dogs that'll do 320, 323, 325 splits. And is he going to get a run with them every night? Is he going to be drawn 4 some night and have a couple of early paces inside him? I know he's explosive. I know he's brilliant. Don't get me wrong. And actually, I would actually love if he won it, because I think you always like to see class come to the fore. But there's going to be class in that competition. Now, maybe you'll only need to get through each round and get your draw one night. That's the way it can happen at times. But the type of dog he is, I just would be a bit concerned. I definitely think he's going to be some silly price, like a 9-2, 5-1 in a big competition. That's the way I have it in my head, that's the type of price he's going to be. He's not going to be
He may not
12-1.
even be that price given depending on the entry.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's it all depends on the entry. I'm guessing without knowing the entry. I'm obviously guessing, but like to my mind, he won't be a bet at any stage unless he's a bet in the final, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to be so defensive of the way his brilliance. They're going to be defensive of that. His price is going to be reflected in it, and that'll be enough to kind of keep me away from backing him. And it's not that I won't want him to win. I just
my argument would be that he may well get a gimme or two in the first round or two, and that could make the difference. He might get a gimme. It might. You need to be unlucky to get a very bad draw in the first round, even perhaps to an extent the second round. It's when the quarterfinals hit that things really start to take sort of shape.
Well, my experience of Laurels for donkey's years now at this stage, it feels would be that you'll always have a dog. You'll have a dog in most heats that can do 28 seconds or close to it. Back in the old days when 28-20 or whatever. So you'll always have something. I remember dogs that came out of Shelbourne Park and came down to the Laurels, and they might do 2 explosive runs the first 2 rounds and be gone in the third round. And so I think the Laurels is that type of competition. There's always dogs capable of doing the really fast times early, and there might just be enough to get in your way, if you know what I mean. I think there will be quality. There will be plenty of quality to not make them gimmies, to be quite honest about it. That's the way I would look at it.
I would suggest that the fact that he has plenty of experience around Curryheen Park will certainly stand to him. Again, a lot will depend on trap draw, as you said, and depending on the price, like you want to be getting a generous enough price to get involved. He is most likely going to be very, very short for most people's money, given the fact that it's not just a 2-run competition. Like this is Laurels, you know what I mean? It's going to take plenty winning, and there's going to be loads of early speed around them. Whether they can keep up the same sort of speed as Broadstone and Sid is irrespective. It's whether he can get around in front of them, because early speed can always get in your way. And it'll be very interesting to see how he goes in Laurels, but he's certainly going to be a huge draw for the Laurels, Tommy.
Yeah, okay, 100%. And of course, being a local dog and being such a star so far in his short career, he's going to have a huge following. And I think even more so than backing him, people are just going to be going there to watch him and to hope that he wins. But will the likes of Ballymacfin say, do you know what? Showing a lot of speed in this sprint, fine for dog speed around the while. Do you know what? Rather than a derby, will I take a chance in the Laurels? Why wouldn't he? He's good.
Yeah, I spoke briefly to Liam, and he said he's far from finished. We're best of luck tonight. He said, but he's far from finished. We'll have a go with him and see where he goes. And yeah, they're the type of dogs you have to be keeping an eye on. He's showing loads of speed. Let's get into the time Juvenile Derby at Shelbourne Park with more classic action. We've limited enough time, so let's talk briefly about these. Fittingly enough, a Droopy Sydney Callaway Kennegair was the impressive winner, Sarah, winning Heat 3 in 27.98. He shoved his way to the corner on the opening, shoved his way to the front on the opening corner. And from the second bend to home, I'm not sure I've seen many dogs go faster. It was astounding. Yes, he wins 17 lengths. The rest are sort of getting into traffic problems. It wasn't any major serious problems. They just seemed to get in each other's way a lot. Meanwhile, Callaway, Kennegair, he's showing unbelievable pace and power from the second bend, and his it's not just to the eye. Like the times are there. Like he's breaking 12 seconds the other night from the third bend home. Like he does 11.92 home. That is otherworldly.
Yeah, I loved the way he was at the first bend though. He literally like busted off six. It was like, get out of my way, will you? I have a job to do here. And he hit off him once and then he hit off him again. It took six. Now six actually ran an incredible race to qualify after the bust he got. But I love to see a dog do that. Like he was driving into that bend, nothing was stopping him from hitting the front. I was speaking to the lads the week previous when I was there, and they were slagging me because I was pronouncing his name totally the wrong way. And you have to give
Yeah,
it a
we
bit
were
of
we
a
were all doing it. I got a voice note from Dennis. Kennegair, Kennegair.
yeah, but you really have to give it that Kerry bit of a like
Yeah,
from bit of the hock to it, like Kinnikiar,
yeah,
And I
yeah,
kept
yeah.
saying it back to them, and he was like, "No, you're not saying it right." So sorry to them if they're listening. I'm still saying it wrong. But Callaway Kinnikiar, no, he ran brilliant, and obviously the track's marked 20 fast, but 27.98, 17 lengths. I mean, it's just there on paper now, isn't it? He's something else. Um, I don't know. I didn't check the outright prices. I don't even know if they're up yet, but I don't know what price he is. Have you seen them
He's
to win it
short.
outright?
He's around 64, I think. Tommy Callaway, Kinnegair. It's just astounding the pace he has from the second bend. But as Sarah said it, that move on the opening bend, it sort of sums up what we saw about him last week. You liked it, and two or three men said it to me before racing on Saturday night. Two or three very shrewd men loved the way he maneuvered out
Mm.
off the bend, off the rail last week. The way it was our own clockman that said it to me, said the way he ran the third bend with a dog on his inside was astounding. He didn't have a dog
Yeah,
on his inside this week at the third bend, but what he did at the opening bend tells you that this is a racer. I think he just gets it.
yeah. He just gets it and he just gallops. He's is a remarkable performance for many reasons, and the 27.98, curious enough, is not reflective of the performance. It's not enough of a reflection. The 28 seconds have been broken 6 times in the last month, which is the same number as has been broken all of last year in Shelbourne Park. So it actually his trials are actually a more reflection of what he's capable of. And in fact, I suspect that he'll go quicker than that again. He has 27.79 on a track rated 20 fast. He'll break that again in his racing career if he gets enough opportunities over 5.25. He may not.
I
He
was
look
going to say he could well have just two more races over 5.25 yards. Just
That
looking
could
at
be
him.
it. That's obviously the issue. Um, you would think if the Derby was run at its normal time of year, that 29 seconds would be broken. It might not be in November. Depends on how the track could be, what the weather is like, conditions, and all that sort of stuff. And actually, I was chatting to a fella the other day. I bumped into him at a match, and very much involved in this game all his life. And we are just saying that just be interesting to see when it comes to the Derby how it will dogs that are early pacers and flashy early pacers, how they'll cope with it week on week, because it is going to be testing regardless. But this dog looks tailor made for a tough Derby, absolutely tailor
Yeah.
made for it. He's for everything he's doing so far. You would just absolutely have to love. Yeah, you'd like to give him about a length of early pace, to make him into the perfect greyhound. But it wouldn't be much fun if they were all perfect greyhounds. He's going to be exciting to watch as well as everything else, because what you talked about a few minutes ago and we talked about last week was that little switch, the brains, the intelligence, the racing intelligence that he showed in the previous round, and then just the pure raw ability and that little drive at the first bend to say, "Come out of my way, I'm going through here." Both of those completely different things, but the same racing brain said, this is my way through here. I have no choice but to force it. The previous week, he said, well, I could go up the inside, but it could get tight. Let's switch and go around him. And he did. I mean, I just nothing not to like about that greyhound.
No, I was talking to Dennis Murphy, one of the owners, one of the blood sport or the what's it called? What's the sports?
Field sports or something, isn't it? Or...
Yeah, I was talking to Dennis anyway, and his father. They were only on the way back up the road after watching an under-15 All-Ireland final. Kerry had won. Dennis's young fella was playing, and he was buoyant enough before racing. I'd say he was buoyant enough after racing. They have obviously big hopes for this greyhound, and why wouldn't they? He's very, very special. Behind him, Boyle Sports Blue and Tivoli Milo. Funnily enough, they could be two of his biggest dangers in the competition. Yes, they're beating 17 lengths and 4 lengths, but absolutely nothing went right for them. Tivoli Milo is there on the corner challenging, gets badly done. Boyle Sports Blue gets stopped about 3 or 4 times, and still manages to finish a good second. So ignore the times with regards to those two. They're both very talented. I just want to talk about the other heat winners briefly. Cheap Sandwiches finally got loose in Shelbourne Park in the opening heat. He wins in 28-18. I was pretty sweet in his chances. Droopy's plunge from 5 was always going to go one direction, straight left at boxes. He went up close second to Evolution, took him down the back straight, charged to the front into the third bend. Just a nice winner. Anything to add there, Sarah?
No, I thought Cheap Sandwich was brilliant. I put up Evolution in the race. I was looking for a bit of value in the race. And he did. He broke very, very well. But Cheap Sandwiches was just better paced than him. Now Evolution was coming back at him, coming to the line. But yeah, very good performance by Cheap Sandwiches. I was actually Graham Holland was watching it on his phone down in Limerick. But yeah, no, very, very good. Yeah, not much else.
A shocking name for toad punters. Cheap Sandwiches
Yeah,
type of dog.
He's called at home naturally.
Type of dog that's going to be backed by toad punters, Tommy, and you'll never get a big price about him on the toad.
No,
I'd like to know where he got the name from. All right.
I know. Yeah, I'd say there's a story there.
You can't buy Cheap Sandwiches anymore.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. You're as well off buying a sliced pan and a bit of ham yourself. Exactly. On to the second heat of the Time Juvenile Derby. Ballymacbriar, this was a big step forward for this fella. Really liked him. Showed great early speed into the opening corner. Good litter. Plenty of them. I think 4 or 5 of them ran in the opening round. Evolution is obviously one of them. But got on the bunny, 203. Tommy stays a tight line. Hussein Pickles comes at him. She swings off the last bend, which probably costs her the win. It was a short head, and it was a real short head. This was like millimeter job. But I think both first and second can take plenty of heart out of this. They're both big players in the competition.
Well, if you superimpose them on top of the fastest heat of the night, there's only a link between them, which is remarkable. Ballymacbriar is doing 28:05. Hussein Pickles is running like I'm not sure how good Hussein Pickles is or could be. Yeah. I was wildly impressed with the effort the other night. Ballymacbriar was extremely professional, has a nice bit of experience, has a race number 13 or 14 or something like that, has a nice bit of experience, put it together with a 203 sectional from Trap 1. There's nothing you couldn't like about the performance. Hussein Pickles is a bit of a machine. I think she's going to take some beating against her own sex, isn't she?
She is, and my 33-1 each way in the Juvenile Derby is okay at the moment. I'm delighted with that. A little bit of trumpeting there. And the last heat winner, Fun in the Run. Well, I've seen every one of this fellow's races. He started in the unraced stake at Shelbourne Park and looked a nice type, improved with each round. 29:06 in his first round. Second round, you can ignore it. He does 29:62 after finding bad traffic. But then 28:95, 28:68, and the other evening at beg your pardon, at 28.95 should be 28.75. I don't mind the plus 20s and all that. He does 28.23 the other night off the front. He's improving at a rate of knots. He's only a January 23 whelp. He's bred in the purple out of Love Island, a half brother to Knockeen Dazzler, the Kirby Memorial champion. The Malone family, they've been involved in dogs for many, many, many years. Darren and Michael responsible for this one, and Fun in the Run. I think he's going to be well named, Sarah. I think they're going to have some sport with this fellow. Where he ends up, I don't know. He's only a January 23. His current rate of progression, he could be a star in waiting. If he improves another 20 spots, which he has done basically every night, he's all of a sudden doing 28 seconds next week. Who knows where he could end up?
Yeah, I love the name as well, and the Malone family, they're lovely people. Fellow trim coursing buddies. We know them a very, very long time, and it's great to see them with a good dog. They're Shelbourne Park regulars. I think he started off his career in Newbridge, or at least trialled in Newbridge, which would obviously be their local track. But yeah, he's improving week after week. He's still only a baby, so it's going to be very exciting to see where they're going to go with him. There's a bright future, that's for sure. Ran an absolute cracker, as you say. You wouldn't mind with the 20 and spots and stuff. 28-23. that's what you want to be doing, because this is a competitive competition. So he needs to be doing that to stay up there with them. So looking forward to seeing him now in the next round. I hope he goes all the way for them. It'd be great, because you know they're regulars. They're going there every week, week in, week out, usually watching other people's dogs. So it's nice for them to actually have one of their own and be at that high standard, you know.
Absolutely. The 8-1 seemed pretty generous in the end, Tommy. This is the type of dog I love. I don't like to see them coming out and being so professional from the start. I like them to learn on the job a bit. That's what Fun the Run is doing.
Yeah, nice way to break it up. 28-23. Um, Nothing not to like about the performance. Again, the 28-23 is below what you're going to need to be a top class dog. I'm talking about like a Derby class. I'm not talking about just an open racer. Um, but that's the right direction, as you said. 28-23 that could be 28-13 next week if it is, and then it could be a 28-03 dog in a couple of weeks' time, hopefully. And that's the type of thing you're looking that sort of progress. I'm the same as you, Ian. Very much the type that wants to see a dog learning on the job and be given plenty of time to improve with experience, because you do all you like in trials, but you can't. I don't think you can teach what Callaway Kenegare has. I don't think you can teach that, but they can try. They can learn it in a race. Some dogs just have it. Some will learn it. Fun in the Run looks like the type of dog that's going to learn plenty over the course of the next 4 or 5 races.
Yeah, lots to look forward to in the Time Juvenile Derby. That continues on Saturday night. Some exceptional talents in it. Just want to touch on a couple of displays on the undercard at Shelbourne. Scooby the Boss, very impressive, 1873 in the sprint. Looks a real 4-bend runner, winning a sprint. I would say his future is over 4 bends. Out of Scooby Princess. So Bread in the Purple, nice to see him winning a good style for Jennifer O'Donnell. Azurite got loose in the 575, 30-75, a hell of a run. Rambling Boy looked a really nice type for Georgie Roach. Showed a lovely turn of early speed. Wins in 28-13. Outside of that, of course, the basically the biggest run of the night was Check for Cash, 27.93 for Carl Ramsbottom. He's looked a really nice dog to this point in his career. He's made 7-4 favourite the other night in a contest packed with early speed, and he left them all standing. He did a phenomenal clock to the third bend. It's a hell of a run. Track is going very, very lively at the moment, and it was a big run. But have no doubt, this is a real greyhound for the future. Check for Cash. A Rapido Bob, really likable display over 550 and 29.55. And the last race was the most remarkable display by the Bull Falcon, having broken the track record for 600 yards in his previous start. He looked like he was going to be doing it for the 575 the other night, only to stumble, miss a step and stumble. He went from being going 4-5, probably going to go about 8 clear, to finding himself behind, and then came back again to win by 2 lengths in 31.30. I think he could take 90 spots off it. Genuinely, I think it could have been a 30-40, 30-50 run. I think it was going to be an unbelievable performance. But anyway, it was still an unbelievable performance. Keep an eye out for him. Sarah, you were down at Tralee. You mentioned it earlier on for the Rose of Tralee, won by Slip Along Ace on Friday or on Saturday afternoon. A good occasion, and you met a few of the Roses.
Yeah, I did. It was a fantastic afternoon. There was 8 races on, and the standard of racing was really good. I hadn't looked at it much before I went down, because we popped into the radio station, Radio Kerry, first to give the Ledger a plug, and then we gave the Rose of Tralee a quick mention, and I didn't even get to touch on the racing. And then when I went there, before I touch on the big final, Jack Keneally had a cracking winner on Master. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. 30-78 for the 570 on only his third run, I think it was. So definitely one to keep an eye on. That was the Donlow Regan Memorial 570 race. I met the family, who of course he won the Derby many years ago. You might remember the year. It slips my mind now, but
joyful tidings, yeah, back in
the dad was talking to me about it earlier on. But then the big one, the Rose of Tralee final, it was worth 2,100. Slip Along Ace won it for Patrick O'Connor. And there was an army of people that came out on the podium. And for the 8 races, 4 Rose of Tralees came down for every single presentation. And then there was best dressed. Place was packed. The crack was flying. It was brilliant. I met some of the Rose. I met the Dublin Rose, of course. She's from Finglas. But yeah, great afternoon altogether, Ian. And I know they've been doing that for a good few years, but it was the first time I went down to it. And I have to say, a brilliant afternoon. So well done to everybody. And to all the team in Limerick as well for the Ledger and everybody. It was just and Dundalk, a magnificent week for greyhound racing.
It sure was. My thanks again to Tommy Lyons, the Exile Dub, and to the Cheshire Cat, Sarah Kinsella. We look forward to another great week in Greyhound racing. Time Juvenile Derby continues at Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. We're getting into it. It's getting serious now. The Laurels, the Derby, they're only just on the horizon, and we look forward to it. Some exceptional performances. We remember the great Droopy Sydney on this week when he had another classic winner. Who knows? He could have another classic winner in a couple of weeks' time with Callaway Kinnegar, the pretty hot favourite to land the Time Juvenile Derby. Best of luck to anyone with a runner in that Juvenile Derby. We look forward to watching the action again in the coming 2 Saturdays. Of course, Shelbourne Park is set to open next week or next month as well. And by all accounts, it looks pretty spectacular. I've been very impressed with what I've seen. And by the time they finish it off, it should be absolutely sparkly and new. Well worth a visit. But that's it from us on this Talking Dogs on Monday. I'm talking in terms of us three talking. Stay tuned because we have a little bit of an added bonus. Yes, and as an added bonus, we have the presence of the great Jim Murphy, winning owner of the willwego.com ledger champion at Clonbrien Treaty. Jim, you're getting a dab hand at these. We spoke after he won the Easter Cup earlier in the year. He's now a 4-time classic winner. When you get involved in greyhounds, you can only pray to have a 1 classic winner. You've had Clonbrien Hero, Clonbrien Prince, and here we are now with Clonbrien Treaty, and he's as good as any you've ever had. 4 classics to his name, a pretty special performer.
He is special in us, but we have a pretty handy trainer behind us as well.
Talk us through Saturday night. Obviously, there was a big gang of you there, big family occasion. I suppose he gave you a bit of a fright in the opening yards, but once he got to the front, he really ran with purpose. He seemed to know what was on the line, and a dual ledger winner for a Limerick man, that must be very special.
Oh, absolutely! They were thrilled. We used to enjoy the small wins. I said we never thought we'd reach these heights. So we're here now, and we have to enjoy it.
You must have known from early that he was pretty special. Like I'm sure we asked the same question when he won the Easter Cup, but like obviously this is a homebred. He's out of Clonbrien. Millie, she's been a bit of a star for you with in the breeding paddocks. But you must have known from early that he was pretty special. The fact that he ended up with Graham before he ran his first race is evidence of the fact.
We do, as I said to you before, like we go over to Liam Hayes' not long schooling track, and almost from the first day, like even with hand slips, they stand out, the good ones, so it progressed from there, and then we send them over to Graham, and so even in the early stage, before the Kirby, he said this dog has the wow factor. He says that's how he put it.
Yeah, well, he certainly did have the wow factor on Saturday night. Again, took it up into the opening corner. How were you feeling those first 50 yards?
Oh, the 2 in front, Miami King and Barefoot and Fire, they were the 2 we didn't want out in front. but Graham, there's only 1 race you want to win, and excuse me, I'm a bit hoarse today. But he said there's only 1 race you want to win. That's the final. Graham is a great man for peaking him and bringing him along nice and steady from the first heats to the final. So it was brilliant.
Jim, he's just gone 3 years of age. He's achieved so much in what is a relatively short racing career. Like it only started what was it, February, March of last year, and here we are, 4 classic winnings. I assume he's not quite going to stud just yet. I assume more targets are on the horizon.
There is. I didn't really ask Graham, because Graham will tell you, Jim, a week is a long time. He says, well, don't be asking me 2 months what we'll do in 2 months' time. So he's obviously going to get a good rest now, and Graham will, he likes to keep him ticking over and keeping him fit. So I'd imagine he'll have something in mind for him.
Yeah, something in mind. Like there is a big white behemoth on the horizon there at Shelbourne Park. A Derby challenger. You're going to book a couple of nights in hotels locally.
Sure, we'll manage something in a end, So, but no, he like last year he wasn't running great in Shelbourne, and your colleague Tommy Lyons was saying the same, and he was always surprised, but he seemed to get the handle on us during the Easter Cup. So fingers crossed that he'll progress.
Yeah, just must be remarkable to own a greyhound like this, but to own a few greyhounds like this over the years, you must have something special in the water down there.
No, we just do it. I wouldn't say there's any real secrets. Like we'd feed them well and have a fair bit of freedom. If you compare them to other people, I can't exactly know what other people are doing, but they're fed very well. They'll be getting lots of meat from day one, and they'll be getting plenty of freedom, and we look after them well. They get plenty of TLC as well. Like,
Of course, the dam line is obviously pretty hot too. Clonbrien Billy, what a star she's been. Any more pups on the horizon with you, Jim?
I was speaking to you before. We had a nice little bitch, like the Trophy Sydney's bitch, but she ended up over Graham twice, and she came in season twice. So I got her in pup. I got her in pup recently. I said there's no point in continuing here, like, because I always intended breeding off her, and I did, like, So she's in pup, and she to one of Graham's new in Taylor, lovely cross. So hopefully that'll work out well. And we have a few cash outs then out of Millie, and they're November pups, so we'll be having the fingers crossed there, because the cash outs are going nicely.
You had no problem selling a few of them, I'd suggest. So you might hold on to plenty of them, though.
Well, I have 4 of them here at home, like, rearing them, and so hopefully they'll be sort of nice when we start testing them.
Yeah, absolutely. For you to name this fellow Treaty, I suggesting that you must have known. You must have named him pretty late in the fact that you knew he was a good one. Like, I assume you were holding on to Clonbrien Treaty as a name for one that sort of caught the eye.
Yeah, it was, like, but as I said, like, we had an idea, but even going when you're going to the track, I suppose they're going at 40. They'd have been named at that stage, like, but I don't know why we just like the name Treaty anyway, but we didn't exactly know that he was special at that stage, like,
But he was doing the right thing, shall we say?
He was coming along, like, he in a few of the gallops at home, they seem to stand out. They can suddenly leave their colleagues behind, like, and they're running up the fields, like.
Now, I know it's very much a family celebration. I saw a few clips, I saw a few photographs. The old voice is telling a tale, Jim. You got to tell me, there were great celebrations. Mirren, obviously, your daughter is half owner. I'm sure Kay was hanging on as well with the celebrations. Just a great few days, I'd assume.
Yeah, we came out to Blackhill, like, at the corner house there, and we all gathered there. Like, there was a few people over from England as well, like relations, and some lots of friends of Merns and so forth, and all the locals gathered, and we ended up back down there again yesterday for a few, like, so we buy a few drinks and celebrate. So you have to do these things, like.
Yeah, I'm sure it was already everything he achieves from now is bonus territory. And the fact that he's won a second Ledger, 4 classics, everything else from now really is bonus territory. This is just a cherry on top.
It is. It's absolutely. You only dream about these things, like, you sort of even like all week, like, leading up to Saturday night, and even Saturday night before the race, like, like, to be brilliant if we did it, like, but it's another thing getting across the line, so, but we managed it, and great thanks to Graham and Treaty and all the connections, like.
Well, the Jim Murphy, Graham Holland alliance has worked to this point anyway. I can see no reason why it can't continue to work. Jim, our heartiest congratulations. Well done. You've got a special Greyhound in Clonbrien Treaty. He keeps treating us all to special displays, and, well, hopefully another couple in him yet.
Hopefully, and thanks very much.
Thanks, Jim.